Hello boys, girls and bees, I'm Senpai and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be looking to a video by depressed Nasagi, the trauma of graduations. The trauma of graduations, yes, I'm already, I'm in the process of having a graduation, would I say trauma? It's not trauma, but Nina. Yeah, if you do anyone join us, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining the community that we're trying to build on this channel. Yes, check out the video, The Trauma of Graduations.
Long enough, then you know how it's like to watch a YouTuber you absolutely loved a decade or so ago, only to forget them eventually as time passes. And when you come to them to relive the good old days for nostalgia's sake, you see that their last uploaded video was a long time ago. But at the very least, you can still
oh my god, Etika. Oh no, oh my god. Well, the thing about Etika is obviously a lot more tragic and sad. VTubers are dying, obviously. So Etika's tragic. I remember healing. I remember when what happened to Etika happened. Sad.
For nostalgia's sake. In a typical music group or band, an influential member leaving will still be able to keep their name and their prestige. Their old work will still remain, and people will still be able to consume them or follow them easily in the future if they choose to remain in the industry, but VTubers? They don't get to have any of these luxuries all the time. As a VTuber fan, especially those of corpos, you most likely are afraid of this announcement format, especially if it's in Japanese or a language you don't understand, even to a point of overreacting when the word graduation is used by anyone. Hell, not even that. Any kind of announcement stream a VTuber pulls up is going to sink the air, so much so that they have to clarify whether it's good or bad news. While some VTubers' old content will still remain after they graduate, a lot of them, especially if they are terminated, get completely wiped out. Fans are unable to look back to their good old days. All the memento of your fun times with that VTuber is your memories or very popular clips. It's a practice among many corpos that I presume many others absolutely despise. Of course, there are times that such agencies can leave the deletion of their content to the VTubers themselves, and surprisingly, a lot of VTubers do opt to take down their content when they are gone. But the enforcement of this principle is rather inconsistent, really only selected to the few who gets to leave in the best of terms, and it's an option that's not exactly available to everyone. That in itself isn't so ideal. It feels like a complete and utter waste of all the work and effort they've put up until that point.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it was a termination, even if they had a good reason to be exiled out of the company. Throwing all of that hard work away because it's a contractual obligation that somehow the corpos won't update. It just doesn't make sense to me. And the worst part is finding these VTubers in the next life. Right now, it's very easy to find the new incarnation of popular VTubers in the big corpos because they are likely to be an open secret. Their reappearance is going to be loud. But most of the time, there's a taboo in VTubing when it comes to reincarnating. When an old VTuber incarnates, there's this hush-hush culture where it's socially forbidden to discuss the past life of a VTuber you used to like anywhere.
Right,
it filters the casuals, and casuals are unfortunately the majority, making it so that they would rather watch someone else that is readily available in their own space and home community.
Right, yeah, 'cause somebody else in their own in their own court, where they just move on to somebody else more than like being able to find the reincarnation of that liver
or agency, instead of following an old VTuber they used to like as closely as they did back then. Tell me, for any old VTuber you used to really like, when they re-debuted as someone else in another culture or company, how many of them whose streams do you still watch consistently? How many of them whose clips do you still actively consume? How many of them have you truly, wholeheartedly supported all the way? Not just in superficial ways like petty lip service, but actually support them. Buy their merch as they used to, donated and follow them as actively as you did. Of course, we will all have our kamiyoshis that we will support everywhere they'll go. But I imagine we also have more graduated VTubers that we used to really like that we won't even bother actively looking for anymore. As I've said, a lot of us have settled in our home communities. Taking that extra step, spending that extra energy to go out to another community or culture to look for familiar voices, that's a hard sell for most. Most people aren't going to bother anymore unless the content makes their way to them, making it so that the VTuber who graduated has to put up twice the effort to not only
Right, to reach you, yeah, right. There's not really like an easy, like, I guess, like, pivot to somebody graduating and leaving the, I guess hypothetically say corporate VTubers and then being able to find them. Like, you have to actually put a lot of effort in to find them, or the VTuber themselves has to do a lot of work to be able to reach you.
establish a new fan base.
Or I guess unless somebody's like graduating and then moving to a different corp, then maybe it is easier to find them.
But to also try to get their old one to find them if they want them back, especially if they are contractually obligated to not disclose who they once were. And in this regard, we can ask which really matters more to VTuber fans: the person behind the VTuber or the character and the content itself, the kayfabe. A lot of you would most likely say that the person behind it matters. After all, if the voice of your favorite VTubers get replaced, you'd most likely be seething and throwing a fit. Such was the case of the Game Boop Project and Kizuna Ai. Yet, why is it that when certain VTubers graduate, a majority of their fan base doesn't actually follow them to their new incarnations,
Well, that's
even
true.
if they know who they are? Whether they become indies, part of a group, someone else entirely. Why is it that when a VTuber graduates and resurfaces as an indie or something else,
That is true. Like, it seems like a majority of their fan base, like, kind of drops off. Like, it seems like a lot of the time, they don't come with them. Like, they don't.
they feel off? Even if they are the same person, with the same personality and the same gimmick, you don't find the appeal that they used to have in their new incarnation. I want you to think about that long and hard again. Is the person behind the VTuber more important, or the character and the content? I can't speak for you or predict what you are going to think of, because we all have our own thoughts on the matter. I'd like to be enlightened by what you think too, so drop your 2 cents in the comments, because there might be that one VTuber you followed over the years regardless of which company and community she incarnated into, making you strongly think the person—
But I think it's also kind of like, people also kind of, I feel like, watch this person that could be their Oshi in a certain company, because it's based off of the company that they're in and the ecosystem that they're in. And like, hypothetically, say like you're in like the Niji Sanji community, you're in that Niji, you're in that ecosystem, you're in that community, and you watch the livers in that community, and somebody leaves and then like, becomes an indie, or goes back to indie, hypothetically. It's like, like, maybe they don't go with the indie to, like, go with them to their new, or I guess back to their old character, as them going back or becoming an indie, because it's kind of like, I guess it's just this place of like a community that a person kind of feels comfortable with, and maybe it's in the sense of like comfortability. I don't know. It's like when there's so many other like VTubers in a company, kind of just seems like when somebody graduates, they just move on to somebody else. Like, they don't follow that person to their new thing.
is what matters. It might even be a pill you are unable to swallow. Maybe you'll remember that you said you'd support a certain VTuber wherever and whoever she is, but found yourself no longer doing so. My own conclusion is that we fell in love with the character portrayed by the person, but not necessarily the person
themselves.
We like the kayfabe and the content more, but we want that kayfabe and content produced and presented by the person we are familiar with. In general acting, people can don
I mean, you can think about like this, right? Like, say like a content creator make a certain kind of content, and then they change the kind of content that they make and pivot to something else, like hypothetically, and you can think about, oh, okay, I'm a Genshin content creator, but now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go and make, I don't know, Valorant videos, and people don't follow you to those Valorant videos because they don't like the game Valorant, and people be like, oh, I love you and I would follow you anywhere, but they don't, because in some cases people care more about the content itself than you as a person, and it's kind of just like, it's kind of how it is. People, some people do like you, but what's also important to them is the topic at hand and is the content itself that that person is making. And kind of maybe at the same time, it's like the ecosystem that they're in and the community that they're in, you know, and like leaving that, they don't like kind of transitioning with that person, because like I feel like to an extent I think people do, like they like the person, like they, I don't think people are being disingenuous and they say, oh yeah, I'll follow you anywhere, but it's more of like, okay, well, I don't know if the like that they can I think they do like the person to a certain extent, but a lot of the time people don't weigh the person themselves over the content, and people care more about the content itself than the person. If the content is something that people aren't as interested in, they're not going to watch. I think that's like majority of like casual viewers and casual watchers, because only like your hardcore fan base will actually follow you for you, you know.
The mantle of our favorite characters, but in the context of VTubing, people will have the soul and the voice of the VTuber be the only voice and the soul of that character ever. Changing or replacing it is something of a cardinal sin in the part of the agency. Yet that does not necessarily mean that we love the person behind them the same way we do the character. Some of us, sure, but most of us, I have observed, we don't. That is my own thoughts, and you are free to have your own, even if you think I'm wrong. The word graduation is a means to sugarcoat a regrettable incident, even in its roots under Japanese idol culture, but such incidents are inevitable. All VTubers are going to graduate someday, and I'm not talking about it in the same realm as people dying someday, but
God,
I'm talking about a decade or even a few years, sometimes even mere months. To see our favorite VTubers saying that they're severely ill already inflicts a mountain.
I mean, even in some cases, the company themselves shuts down, you know.
Dread. To see our favorite VTubers' friends crying out of nowhere already invites paranoia. To see our favorite VTubers gradually upload and stream less and less already makes us scared, because those are just 3 of the many signs that perhaps a graduation is coming. That is a trauma of graduations. To see our Oshis leave with their hard work being wiped, the difficulty of trying to find them again, and the prospect that we won't like their new personas as much as we like the old one. Not just that, the pain and trauma of graduations goes so far and deep that a casual VTuber fan will still feel the pain when a certain VTuber they don't know graduates. That being said, it's not all doom and gloom. Graduations aren't all that bad sometimes, not just for the streamer, but even for the fanbase. When a VTuber graduates, that could mean that they have a new career path they are happier with. That just means they are prioritizing their health, that they'll be better off. And that is a small solace to have, especially when you like the person more so than their kayfabe. Not just that, but the graduations of a small corpo or indie VTuber you used to really like could mean the beginning of a very successful career. They could be joining a VTuber agency, getting into places and platforms where their talents and skills as an entertainer can be showcased, a place where they can truly shine. Sometimes we like the VTuber that they become more than the VTuber.
Yeah, because like a lot of the times, people don't realize this actually. Corporate VTubers, lots of the time, it's they actually graduate to become corporate VTubers, because a lot of the time they are indies who graduate to become corpos. So it's like, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of interesting in that sense, you know. A lot of the, you know, like we're very like sad and you know, it's a very sad thing like corporate VTubers graduate, but then you kind of think about it, oh, like a lot of the time it's like people actually graduate to join those companies.
VTuber that they used to be, and graduations allow for that to happen. In a totally different environment, a VTuber who used to be so bland and boring can become one of the most fun and creative people that can exist. Graduations are a catalyst for change as a content creator, for better or worse. It could be a means to realize their potential and to let other people see that potential. And ultimately, my thesis is that it's not necessarily a bad thing despite the negativity that overwhelmingly surrounds it. It can be a good thing too. It just really depends on the VTuber that graduates, where they are going, and the fans that they have.
Right, yeah.
Ultimately, people forget that VTubers are people too. Their behaviors, their likes and dislikes,
Nina!
their stances, their dreams in life, they're not absolute. They age, they experience, they change, and graduations are just a part of that process. Admittingly, I think most of us are not going to follow our favorite VTubers for as long as we think we would. We won't actually support our favorite VTubers as much as we think we can, because in a couple years from now, all they will be is a memory. Our priorities will change. We will like other content creators, we will gain responsibilities. We grow up too. But what we can say for sure is that our Oshis have perhaps changed our lives. Whether they have inspired us to
I mean, yeah, it's this. It's the same. It's like it's honestly, it's with everything. You know, it's kind of like just like a real life thing. You know, you sometimes sometimes like you have a friend, and this friend is someone who's very important to you, and this friendship has lasted a couple of years, but maybe you drift apart and you lose that friendship and you're heartbroken over losing that friendship. Or like even, even hypothetically like a relationship. You break up and you feel like, oh, it's like the end of the world. But over time it gets better and you kind of move on and forget about that person. And it's reality in a sense of like we as humans over time we do move on. We do slowly move on, and VTubers that do graduate are favorite content creators that stop, who you maybe watched every day or loved and enjoyed their content, watched them. Maybe you come back once in a while to check their channel, but soon they become a distant memory, and that's kind of just like the truth. It's not just a VTuber thing, it's kind of just like content creator thing, but also kind of a real life thing in general, that a lot of the time the relationships that you have in your life aren't exactly going to last a lifetime. Sometimes relationships and your friendships in your life, they will someday end, and you might someday not always be in touch with that person.
Prove ourselves, whether we needed an escape from the harsh realities of life back then. Even if they're just playing a character, what we feel, how they affected us, and how they will stick with us are. So while they are still here, let's have fun with our Oshis. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. It's a bit more serious and not so lighthearted, and it might have been a bit too
Okay, what's Asayu? What does she say? This hits hard, everything about it, and what everyone's saying in the comments. Number one, losing the inside jokes that you had about involving the previous character or design. Losing the social circle they had and that even probably enjoyed if they were part of a scary corporation. Laying witness to what they are now. Are they happier now? If so, they might still feel the same, but if they're not, then maybe they're now trying their best to entertain their audience the same way as before, or be someone even better, but now they're struggling. The content might not be as good, it might just be different, but they're trying their best and that's all they can do. Now, are fans willing to support them as they try to find happiness again? When did entertainment or having fun become so hard? Damn. Okay, well, that was, that was the trauma of graduations. I'm trying to get, just after the Nina graduation, it's sad, but, yeah, I hope that you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy this video, please consider like, subscribing, and joining the community on the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!